Good morning everyone, I hope you're all doing fantastic. I'm Mysticle, and today I'm going to be bringing you the latest in AR and VR news. We have quite a few interesting things to get into today, so without any further ado, let's jump right into the video. First things first, your Quest 2 and Quest Pro and any future Quest devices are about to get a lot more immersive. And you may be asking yourself, what aspect of immersion are we talking about today? As those devices have already gotten quite a few upgrades in terms of visuals and performance. Well, today we're talking about possibly one of the most important aspects of immersion, and that is audio. Audio is incredibly important to become immersed in whatever you're watching or playing, especially inside virtual reality. The best example of this that someone has ever given me was horror movies. Have any of you ever tried to watch a horror movie without audio? It actually ends up being quite funny. But what exactly is being improved about the Quest's audio solution? Meta is making audio spatialization on Quest more realistic by upgrading the HRTF model. Spatial audio works by using a head-related transfer function, a mathematical function that calculates the filter to apply to audio for each ear in order to make it sound like it was emitted from a precise point in 3D space, relative to your head. It's completely different to basic audio panning, used in most non-VR games. This makes a lot of sense. Of course, if something is behind you inside virtual reality, you want to hear it coming from behind you. If something is to your right, you want to hear it coming from the right. If you're playing a multiplayer game and someone is standing over there talking to you, you want to hear them talking to you from over there and not directly in front of you. That would completely ruin immersion. After all, you are in a 3D virtual space. You can't just be listening to 2D audio. Oculus launched an audio SDK in 2015 using a HRTF, and over the years it saw several improvements, including near-field HRTF, volumetric sources, dynamic room modeling, and even geometry-based sound propagation. HRTFs vary between individuals. The current HRTF is based on publicly available data, but Meta claims it has been making a substantial investment in audio research. And in the past few years, its researchers have captured a larger and more precise datasheet of the HRTFs for over 150 people. The improved localization means the audio will sound more like it's coming from the virtual audio source, particularly when judging the elevation, according to Meta, while the improved frequency accuracy means the audio will sound more natural with less color and filtering. Meta says it conducted a user test with over 100 people, with the average subjective user preference score increasing from 37 to 52 points, and elevation detection accuracy improving by 81%. That's a pretty significant score increase. And I am very excited to see how audio improves in virtual reality throughout the next few years as more and more companies join the space and more companies improve upon this, as I still do think that haptics and audio are a very massive part of being correctly immersed in the virtual space. And I cannot wait to try it out for myself. Let's move on to the next piece of news. The Apple Vision Pro has a display that goes on the front of the headset that will allow other users inside the room to see your facial features while you're in pass-through, allowing them to kind of communicate with you and it seem a little bit more natural than them not being able to see your eyes and just essentially staring at a headset. Well, a developer named Adam decided to recreate this on his Quest Pro by attaching his iPhone to the front of the headset. Adam's VR app reads the Quest Pro eye tracking data and sends it to his iOS app, which renders a virtual avatar. Adam is even leveraging the iPhone's Face ID sensor to position the face and eyes at the correct angle to the person looking at it and turn the screen back to a colored pattern when no one is nearby. This is a clever alternative to the Vision Pro's lenticular display. Unlike Apple's solution though, it only works for one nearby person, not multiple. To be clear though, this is just a fun experiment, not a practical accessory. This only works in the specific VR app that Adam developed for this project, as the Meta Quest platform doesn't support third-party background apps. Now, this actually gets pretty interesting, as I have personally found that the Quest platform does support certain background apps, like for example, us plugging in the Vive facial tracker and wirelessly transmitting that data over to PC. That does work. That actually continues working in the background while we're in other apps. However, different apps don't work, which is very, very weird. But once again, this is just a fun project and doesn't necessarily have much practical use cases. I do think it's really cool though, and I do hope that this gets released to the general population because I would love to try it out. I'm gonna have to steal an iPhone from someone, but once I get that done, we should be in business. Talking about Apple, it seems they're diverging from their usual path, and they are actually keeping their dedicated headsets team in the Vision Products Group. Bloomberg's Mark Gurman reports that the dedicated team at Apple working on the Vision Pro will continue to operate as its own division, working largely independent from the company's wider teams that manage multiple product lines at once. For its biggest product lines, such as the iPhone, iPad, Mac, and more, Apple doesn't have dedicated teams working solely on each one. Instead, Apple organizes itself through departments, such as software engineering, hardware development, machine learning, design, and more. This is a structure that was put in place by Steve Jobs in the 1990s, allowing the wider teams to divide resources among the product lines as needed. However, during the development of the Apple Vision Pro, Apple had its own dedicated division for the headset, known as the Technology Development Group. Run by Mike Rockwell, this dedicated team has reportedly now been renamed internally to the Vision Products Group, according to Mark Gurman in this week's Power On newsletter. It's interesting to see Apple diverging from their original path, and instead creating a whole new team for this headset, wanting to get it just right. And I'm happy to see that. I want them to succeed. Even if this device isn't going to be for me personally, I do think that other companies will follow Apple if they get this done correctly. If enough people buy it, if enough people love it, other companies will be like, oh, looks like XR isn't just a gimmick after all. And with the amount of things that Apple will get done right on this headset, other companies will strive to make theirs better. Or at least that's what I'm hoping will happen. And that's competition for you, and competition is always better for the end user, as companies strive to make the best device possible at the best price possible. Okay, maybe not always the best price, but certainly the best device, meaning we as the end users get the best features and the best software experience. Here's an interesting one, as the long-lasting fight of mobile versus PC was finally commented on. Bosworth responded to the information reporting during an Ask Me Anything session on his Instagram story. To quote, "It's basically all wrong. It's all half-truths, misleading half-truths. Don't believe everything you read. The stuff that came out today was all wrong, including the stuff on PC versus mobile. So the reality was we weren't staffed to do both, mobile and PCVR. I told Mark Zuckerberg, we're not staffed to do both of these things right now. And I said the long term is almost certainly mobile, the short term is PC, but we're not staffed to do both. And Mark agreed. And so we staffed both. And that's where we got to where we are." That is an interesting take on the PC versus mobile side of things. It is very obvious that Meta is currently focusing mostly on their standalone headsets. As a matter of fact, we haven't seen a PCVR headset from them for quite some time. However, I don't actually think that it's the hardware people are worried about. People are worried about the software, because while Meta's headsets do support being connected to a PC and playing PCVR on them, whether it's through wired or wireless, things like the Oculus Dash haven't been updated ever since I got the Rift. The UI still looks the same. And the fact that we're starting to miss out on PCVR titles as well, I think that's what people are worried about. Yes, not everyone wants to buy a big box like this, and not everybody wants to have to turn on a big box like this every time they want to jump into VR. Standalone VR for many people is the fact that you can take a headset, put it on, and play right there. You don't have to turn on a big bulky PC. And then of course there's also the fact that not everyone has a big bulky gaming PC. It's going to be interesting to see how this moves forward. Are we going to start seeing more PCVR titles, or are we going to start seeing a way of playing titles both on standalone Quest and on PCVR? That could be pretty cool. Either way though, if you want to read the full article, link will be down below. And with that, we're going to move on to the next piece of news. Talking about these standalone headsets, they are getting more and more powerful, meaning that even if we don't start seeing PCVR titles, the titles that we do start seeing on standalone headsets should look a lot better and run a lot smoother. This is now being confirmed by the fact that Pavlov Shack is going to run at 90 Hz on the Quest 3 instead of running at the 72 Hz that it's running at on the Quest 2. This has been confirmed by the Bankrupt CEO, and what also has been confirmed is the fact that Pavlov Shack will soon lose support for the Quest 1. This is pretty standard. A lot of titles are now losing support for the Quest 1 as the Quest 1 loses support from Meta. But yeah, that's pretty exciting. The Quest 3 will be able to run Pavlov Shack at 90Hz instead of the 72, and yeah, this is something that the Quest 3 is promising, a lot more power than the Quest 2. But that does make me wonder how many titles are going to come out for the Quest 3 and aren't going to be able to run on the Quest 2. Will this happen at all? I guess we'll just have to wait and see, as Meta is seemingly still going to support the Quest 2 while the Quest 3 comes out. Next piece of news. Ubisoft is going to support Haptics Vest in Assassin's Creed Mirage, but no word yet on the Nexus VR game. Earlier this month, Ubisoft announced a new brand deal with haptic clothing creator Whoa, which produces a thin and light shirt featuring electrode-based haptics. Strangely enough, the partnership isn't targeted at the upcoming VR game, Assassin's Creed Nexus, but rather the non-VR game, Assassin's Creed Mirage. I do think that this is essentially just them not wanting to talk about Nexus too much yet, but it would be a very big lost opportunity if they didn't bring a haptics vest into a VR game. I mean, these things are basically created for each other, a haptics vest plus VR. That would be a massively missed opportunity. I am excited though, seeing Ubisoft working with OWO on this, as we don't see too many companies working with VR accessory makers. And I do think that this could be the start of something good for games, if this is how things are going to go. The more games that have support for things like this, the better, as it gives people the opportunity to buy more accessories to become more immersed in virtual reality. The Pimax Portal is now heading off for a redesign, as it's now going to launch in Q3 later this year. The Pimax Portal, which was announced at the end of last year, has started shipping the handheld console, while the VR headset, called the Portal View, has been delayed because of a redesign in the hardware. Product manager Snake Lin from Pimax said, "The Portal is an ambitious device, and we want to make sure the headset is really great. The first prototype works, but we feel it's not good enough for mass produce. Its weight isn't distributed well, and the comfort can be improved a bit. Also, we found some components are a bit weak if the user is rough with the device." It is good to see Pimax working on redesigning their headset and making it better so that the end user can have a longer lasting device and a more comfortable device. Some of my staff members on my Discord have already received their Pimax Portal, their handheld, and it does seem to be working quite well. However, this is of course the bigger deal, the Portal View. This was the big part of the announcement. The Pimax Portal, in case you don't know, is an Android handheld gaming device. It's a TV gaming device that you can plug into a dock and plug into a TV, and it's also a standalone VR headset. It also does a bunch of other things, but I feel like people are most excited for these three, and if we actually saw these three working, hopefully very soon we will, and we'll get to see them first hands-on and what people think about it. So it's good to see Pimax not wanting to rush this, and instead wanting to give users a fleshed out device, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see whether it really will work the way they said it would. Finally, something a lot of people aren't going to be too happy about, luxury brand Valentino launches Meta avatar clothing. Meta, an Italian luxury brand Valentino, have partnered to launch a new line of digital clothing on the company's avatar store. I know a lot of people aren't going to be too happy about this. A lot of people aren't happy about real brands coming into virtual reality. Some people do think that they are kind of pushing their way into the metaverse, pushing their way into virtual reality where they're not necessarily wanted. A lot of people go into virtual reality because they want it to be a complete disconnect from the real world, and I can see these brands kind of bring them back into reality. The way I look at it is, if I don't want it, I don't have to buy it, I don't have to look at it. Either way though, that's going to be it for today's video. If you liked it, please do leave a like. If you disliked it, I guess this button works too. But let me know why down below. If you guys are not yet part of our community, check out our Discord and check out our Reddit down below, where I want to see you posting your spice memes. This is my third time recording this video, as my camera keeps corrupting the footage. So I'm going to sit here and ask very nicely that this footage isn't corrupted, and I'm also going to very nicely thank my Patreon supporters, whose names are going off to my right now. You guys are absolutely incredible and amazing. Thank you so much for supporting the channel while I continue on with this move. It's actually not done yet. I wish it was, but it isn't. So much love to you guys. Thank you so much. And as usual, if you want to be notified about your content coming up on the channel, make sure to smack the subscribe button before I ding my bell and see you again in the next video. Peace.